Have you ever felt the sting of being cut down in an instant? One careless word, one sharp look, and suddenly it's as if your worth is hanging in the air for others to judge. Your chest tightens, your blood burns, and a storm of words races to your tongue, begging to be unleashed. I've been there. We all have. And in that raw moment, it feels like the only way to reclaim yourself is to strike back, to show them they can't get away with it. But here's the paradox. Those few seconds reveal more about you than about them. Disrespect is a mirror, and what you do next shows the world whether you are a slave to impulse or a master of yourself. Marcus Aurelius warned that the one who loses his temper has already surrendered. It isn't about silence or weakness. It's about strength deep enough to choose dignity over rage. So the real question is this: when the fire rises, will you burn with it or will you stand unshaken? Stay with me, because what comes next may change how you see every confrontation. As we step into the first chapter, picture the moment your skin burns with insult. A word cuts through the air like a blade. A glance dismisses you as if you are nothing. Your chest tightens, your pulse surges, and a storm of fire rises to your lips, begging for release. That moment feels unbearable, doesn't it? You want to strike back, to prove you won't be trampled, to answer pain with force. But pause. Ask yourself, who is truly in control here? Is it you or the one who provoked you? This is the battlefield of the mind. The Stoics saw it clearly. What happens outside of you is never yours to command. But the instant you surrender your reaction, you hand over your crown. Marcus Aurelius, who faced insult daily as emperor, warned, "The person who gets angry has already lost, not because anger makes you weak, but because anger places the leash in someone else's hand." Now imagine this. You are standing in a crowded meeting room. A colleague takes aim, not at your work, but at your dignity. Their words drip with intent, sharpened to draw blood in front of watching eyes. You feel the sting, and instinct shoves you to leap, to list your achievements, to shout them down. And yet, what happens? The room no longer sees the petty cruelty of the aggressor. They see you, unraveling, matching venom with venom. What was once unfairness becomes a spectacle. The critic fades, but your outburst lingers. They remember the fire in your voice, not the injustice that sparked it. I watched this once with my own eyes. A man, cornered by unfair criticism, exploded into defense. He thought he was reclaiming his worth, but instead he burned it. Days later, he admitted it. If only he had waited, breathed, let the moment expose the critic's pettiness, he would have won by silence. But silence never arrived, because his emotions stormed the gates. Your first reaction is rarely strength. It is the animal within, mistaking words for claws and disrespect for mortal danger. That ancient part of you knows only three paths: fight, flight, or freeze. But you are not a cornered animal. You are a human being with a mind that can pause, reflect, and choose. Epictetus spoke it perfectly. Between stimulus and response lies your freedom. That space, that sacred pause, is your kingdom. Lose it, and you are ruled. Guard it, and you rule yourself. The danger of reacting instantly is not only in what you say, but in what you reveal. Words spill out sharper than intended. Wounds are struck that never needed to be opened. Secrets slip that should have been guarded. A moment of heat can brand you for years, and all because you could not sit with the flame long enough to let it pass. So what do? How do we resist the surge when disrespect presses its weight against our chest? Begin with breath. 3 slow, deliberate breaths before you speak. This is not childish counting. This is summoning your higher mind, the part that sees clearly when passion clouds the vision. In those 3 breaths you ask, what response serves my dignity best? Not what feels good now, but what will make me proud tomorrow. Sometimes the answer is to speak calmly, once, with clarity. Sometimes the answer is silence that lets the insult collapse under its own weight. And sometimes the answer is a gentle deflection that leaves the aggressor stranded in their own hostility. But the key is that you choose, not your anger. Another practice, step outside yourself. Imagine watching the scene from above, as if you are both actor and audience. Ask, how would the person I admire most respond here? What would I want my child, my friend, or my future self to see? Suddenly the heat cools. Perspective arrives. What felt like a storm becomes a single wave passing under your feet. Your emotions are not commands, they are signals. Anger says, something important has been violated. Hurt says, this person mattered to you more than you realized. They are messages, not masters. Receive them, but do not bow to them. I remember once being mocked by a man who thrived on spectacle. His insults were knives meant to provoke. I felt the surge. My heart climbed into my throat. But instead of answering, I looked at him calmly and said nothing. The room shifted. People saw his cruelty unmasked. My silence painted him in his own colors, and in that silence, my dignity was untouched. This is not passivity. It is power, the kind only the disciplined can hold while others lose themselves. Calmness is not weakness. It is the ultimate defiance. It is saying, you do not control me. You cannot pull me into the chaos you carry. So the next time someone disrespects you, remember, the pause is your weapon. The breath is your shield. The silence is your crown. Choose not what feels good now, but what honors you later. Refuse to let the moment steal your character. The one who reacts instantly loses twice, once to the insult and again to their own lack of control. But the one who pauses wins without a fight, wins by standing untouchable, wins because their dignity cannot be dragged into the dust. And from here, we must move deeper. Because even if you resist the first reaction, another trap waits for you. One that tempts you to argue, to plead, to twist yourself in search of validation. That, my friend, is the second mistake, and it is every bit as dangerous. Moving into the second chapter, imagine stepping into mud to wrestle with a pig. You stumble, you sink, and before long the dirt covers you both, but only one of you enjoys it. That is exactly what happens when you try to argue with someone who disrespects you. You leave the field stained while they feed on the chaos. They crave it, and you, by joining them, give them the satisfaction they came for. Now let me ask you this. Have you ever found yourself trying to explain your worth to someone who had already made up their mind to devalue you? You lay out your achievements, your hard work, your loyalty, but somehow the more you explain, the less respected you feel. It is like pouring water into a sieve. Nothing remains. All that effort drains away, leaving only emptiness and frustration. That is the trap of trying to change another person's mind when disrespect is their choice, not their mistake. The Stoics warned us, never hand your peace to another. Marcus Aurelius wrote, how much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. He understood that the energy we waste chasing someone else's opinion is energy stolen from our own lives. It is a tax we pay to people who do not deserve our attention. I once watched a dear friend fall into this very spiral. During a meeting, one of her colleagues mocked her work in front of everyone. It was cruel, unnecessary, and designed to humiliate. Instead of letting the insult stand for what it was, a reflection of his character, she launched into a desperate defense. She listed project after project, proof after proof, pleading for the room to see her worth. The more she explained, the smaller she appeared. The more she argued, the stronger he looked. He refused to yield, and by the end, she wasn't defending her work anymore. She was begging for respect that was already hers. That is what happens when you try to change their mind. You put your dignity up for negotiation. You are saying, "Please give me permission to feel respected." And the moment you do that, you have lost. Respect that must be begged for is not respect. It is charity, conditional and fragile, and it will vanish the moment they decide to withdraw it. Here is the deeper truth. People do not disrespect you because they lack information. They disrespect you because it serves them. Maybe they are jealous of your success. Maybe your competence threatens them. Maybe they need to feel tall, and the only way they know how is by making someone else kneel. Their issue is not ignorance, it is insecurity, and no argument in the world can cure that. Epictetus taught that it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. The insult is their action. The attempt to argue is your reaction. And when you argue, you surrender the high ground. You make their insult the center of the stage, when, in truth, it deserves to fade into the background. Think about a courtroom. If you try to change their mind, you become the defendant. They are the judge. You stand there, piling up evidence, pleading your case, hoping for mercy. But this is not justice. It is humiliation, because they have already ruled you guilty in their mind. You cannot win in a court that is rigged against you. The stronger path is silence, or at most, one calm correction. A line like, "I disagree with your assessment," or "That's not accurate," nothing more. You say it once for the record, and then you step back. You do not explain. You do not pile evidence on the table. You do not beg, because your worth is not theirs to measure. Let me share a small story from my own life. Years ago, someone close to me belittled my work in front of others. I felt the sting, the surge to defend myself, but I remembered what I had seen happen to my friend. So I looked them in the eye and simply said, "That's not true." Then I turned my attention back to the task at hand. The conversation ended there. Later, others told me they were shocked by the insult, but more impressed by how little I seemed affected. That moment taught me something. When you refuse to chase their recognition, you shift the power. You leave them exposed while you remain whole. This is the paradox. The less you try to change their mind, the more others begin to respect you. Because they see what you see, that disrespect says everything about the one who gives it, and almost nothing about the one who receives it. By refusing to argue, you let their character speak louder than your words ever could. So remember this: the act of trying to convince someone of your value is itself an admission that you doubt it. If you truly know your worth, you don't argue, you embody it. You stand in it, and that silent confidence unsettles those who wanted to drag you down. Respect that is freely given is the only kind that lasts. Respect you must prove, beg for, or debate into existence is counterfeit. It can vanish as quickly as it appears. Your dignity does not need their signature to exist. Your worth is not determined by their applause or their scorn. So let me cut to the heart. Stop trying to make people see you. See yourself. Stop trying to make them change their mind. Guard your own. If you do this, you reclaim your power. And in that calm, steady refusal, you show a strength far greater than any argument could display. Now, as we step forward, there is another mistake waiting, one even more seductive. Because when insulted, most of us don't just defend, we retaliate. We match tone for tone, fire for fire, forgetting that in doing so, we become exactly like the person we despise. And that, my friend, is the third and most common error. Advancing to the third chapter, imagine standing in a storm where the winds howl and the trees bend violently. Your first instinct is to shout back against the roar, to match the chaos with your own force. But the more you fight the storm with sound, the more it drowns you. This is what happens when you match the energy of those who disrespect you. You become them, and in that instant, you lose the ground that was once yours. Here's where most people fall. They believe raising their voice when attacked proves strength. They believe mirroring aggression shows they cannot be pushed around, but what it really shows is chains around your emotions, chains in their hands. Because if they can dictate your tone, your volume, your state, then you are not leading, you are following, you are dancing to their tune. I remember a heated meeting over a project deadline. A colleague turned sharp, his voice loud, his tone dripping with condescension. Every nerve in me wanted to rise and match him, to show I would not bow. But something inside whispered, "Do the opposite." So I lowered my voice. I slowed my words. Calm spread through me, even as his temper flared higher. And suddenly, the room shifted. Eyes turned, not to my silence, but to his fury. He was exposed. I remained untouched. This is the power of contrast. When they go high with noise, you go low with calm. When they sprint with rage, you walk with deliberate steps. Seneca once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." When you refuse to mirror them, you deny them their victory. You strip away their excuse to say, "You see, they're just like me." But matching their energy is tempting, isn't it? It feels like justice. Yet justice is not found in becoming the very thing you oppose. It is found in restraint, in composure, in holding the line while they lose theirs. Imagine two fires feeding each other, one small, one large. If you add your flame, the blaze devours both. But if you withhold, their fire consumes only itself. Psychologists call it symmetrical escalation. You yell, they yell louder. You insult, they sharpen theirs. Soon the battle is no longer about the insult. It is about survival of ego. And by the end, no one remembers who began it. They only remember the chaos you both created. That is exactly what disrespectful people want, to drag you into mud so they no longer look filthy alone. Misery loves company. They want you beside them in the dirt. This is where you must become the opposite force. If they are fast, you slow down. If they are frantic, you grow measured. If they drown the room in noise, you let silence sharpen the air until it cuts through their shouting. Do not mistake this for weakness. This is the hardest strength. Anyone can erupt. Few can stay unshaken. Think of a lion. It does not waste energy roaring at every barking dog. Its silence is not fear, it is mastery. Its calm is not passivity, it is power restrained, power chosen. And when it finally moves, everyone knows it means something. That is how you must hold yourself when provoked. Another story. A friend of mine endured an aggressive attack in a boardroom. Her rival mocked, laughed, and pressed with sarcasm. She smiled softly, responded with one clear sentence, and stopped. The room fell silent. Her calmness made his cruelty shine brighter, and in that silence she won. He had dragged himself into the mud, while she stood on higher ground. Your composure is not just for you. It speaks to everyone watching. It tells them who has class and who has lost it. It exposes character without you ever naming it. And when the dust settles, people remember not the insult, but the dignity with which you carried yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That is the essence of not matching energy. You are not responsible for their storm. You are responsible for your response. And in that responsibility lies your freedom. Let me cut sharply here. Matching their energy is weakness disguised as strength. It feels like courage, but it is surrender. It is handing over your strings to someone who already showed you they are not fit to hold them. True strength is holding those strings yourself, refusing to let them play you like a puppet. So the next time you feel the fire, do the opposite. Speak softer, move slower. Let their rage crash against the rock of your calm. Watch as they burn out while you remain. This is not passivity. This is strategic silence. This is active composure. And it is far more frightening to them than any scream you could deliver. Your calm is your shield. Your restraint is your weapon. Your dignity is your final word. And in the end, that word speaks louder than anything they ever shouted. At this stage, remember this truth. Anyone can mirror darkness, but only the disciplined can reflect light. And as we move forward, we step into another trap, one that tempts you to go for the person instead of the problem, to attack their character instead of addressing their actions. That mistake, too, can burn bridges you may one day need. Entering the fourth chapter, imagine a blade cutting deeper than it needs to, not to win the fight, but to scar forever. That is what happens when you make disrespect personal. The instant you shift from behavior to character, from what you did to who you are, the argument stops being about the issue and becomes a battle of identities. And once it becomes that, no one wins. Now imagine this. Someone strikes you with a careless insult. It stings. The blood in you demands revenge, not reason. You want to return fire, to point out every flaw they've ever had, to drag their past mistakes into the light so everyone can see them exposed. It feels satisfying in the moment. But satisfaction here is a trap, because what feels like power in the heat of the moment will feel like poison later. I witnessed this during a tense business meeting. Two partners disagreed about strategy. One wanted bold expansion, the other urged caution. It should have been a debate about ideas. Instead, one partner lost his grip and struck at the man himself. He dragged up failed projects from years ago. He questioned his competence. He abandoned the argument and went for the throat. The room changed instantly. No one remembered the strategy. They only saw a man reveal his bitterness. He thought he was winning by weakening his opponent. In truth, he was showing everyone he could not separate his anger from his judgment. And in that moment, his own credibility crumbled. Here is the truth. When you make it about them, you expose yourself more than them. You reveal you cannot stay on the ground of reason, so you reach for the dirt of insult. You tell the world that you carry grudges like weapons, ready to be unsheathed when cornered. And that is not strength. That is surrender. The Stoics knew this danger well. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Whenever you want to cheer yourself, consider the good qualities of your companions." Even when betrayed, even when disrespected, he forced himself to see the fragments of good that still remained. Why? Because it kept him from falling into hatred, which always destroys more than it builds. To turn every disagreement into a judgment of someone's soul is to trap yourself in bitterness. Think carefully. People can change their behavior. They can adjust, improve, learn, even apologize, but no one can change their past. No one can alter the very bones of who they are. If you attack that, you are not offering a path forward. You are closing the door forever. What could have been a resolvable conflict becomes a permanent war. What could have been a bridge becomes rubble. And here is the cost. Personal attacks burn bridges that may never be rebuilt. Someone might forgive you for criticizing a decision, but they will not forget you calling them incompetent, dishonest, or worthless. Words that attack character lodge deeper than arrows. Long after the conflict is over, they remain in memory, pulsing with resentment. You think you won, but you lost the possibility of any future alliance. From here, let's step into clarity. Keep the focus on the act, not the actor. Say, that comment was inappropriate, not, you are always disrespectful. Say, I disagree with that decision, not, you never make good choices. Attack the action, not the person. Critique the deed, not the soul. By doing this, you not only preserve dignity, you also preserve your own reputation as someone who refuses to fight dirty. I've seen leaders follow this discipline and rise above chaos. When confronted with mistakes, they point to the behavior. This decision cost us dearly. They never attack the person with labels. And what happens? The other side may feel the sting of correction, but they don't feel stripped of dignity. The relationship can continue. Respect, even strained, can remain intact. And there is another lesson. When you avoid personal attacks, you show others you are anchored. You prove that you can disagree fiercely without hatred. This is not weakness, it is command. Anyone can lash out. But the one who separates person from behavior shows mastery of both self and situation. Remember this, attacking their character often says more about yours. It shows whether you can hold to principle under pressure, or whether you let rage twist you into what you despise. The real test is not when the world is calm, but when your blood is hot. Can you still speak with precision? Can you still strike at the problem instead of the person? That is the mark of strength. Seneca once wrote, "How much better to heal than to seek revenge." Healing begins by keeping the wound small. Do not slash deeper. Do not widen the cut with words that cannot be taken back. Contain the conflict to the issue. Preserve the possibility of resolution. That is wisdom. So next time disrespect tempts you to aim low, remember, to make it personal is to lose yourself. Hold your ground. Keep the spotlight on the act, not the actor. Your dignity will outshine their insult. And when the room remembers, they will remember who kept their hands clean. At this stage, understand the chain of mistakes. First, reacting too fast. Second, trying to change their mind. Third, matching their energy. Fourth, making it personal. And now, the final trap awaits. The one that does not end when the argument ends. The one that can haunt your mind for weeks, months, even years. That, my friend, is the silent poison of letting it consume you. At this stage, picture a fire that has already burned out. The smoke is gone, the embers cold. Yet you return again and again, blowing on ashes, hoping to relight the flame. That is what happens when you let disrespect live in your mind long after the moment has ended. You become your own tormentor, carrying forward a wound that should have already closed. Now imagine this. Someone cuts you down with a single remark, sharp, dismissive, perhaps even accompanied by that smirk that says they enjoy seeing you stumble. The moment lasts 5 seconds, but then hours later, you are still replaying it. Days later, you are still thinking of what you should have said. Weeks later, it creeps into your mind when you are alone, souring your mood, stealing your peace. The insult is long gone, forgotten by the one who delivered it, but you've become their accomplice, carrying their weapon for them, stabbing yourself again and again with memory. I once made this mistake. A colleague dropped a condescending remark in the hallway on a Friday afternoon. I walked away calmly. I thought I had handled it well, but then came Saturday morning. My mind replayed the scene like a broken record. I imagined comebacks sharper than swords. By afternoon, I was running scenarios of future confrontations, determined to win back what I thought I had lost. That night, I drafted emails in my head, long damning messages that would expose his behavior. Sunday was consumed by endless analysis. Why did he say it? What did he mean? What does it reveal about him? By Monday, I was exhausted, angry, hollow. He had likely forgotten the incident entirely, yet I had let him conquer my entire weekend. My relationship suffered because I vented instead of being present. My energy drained into shadows instead of light. The insult lasted 5 seconds. The suffering lasted 3 days because I chose to keep carrying it. This is the most insidious mistake. Because it happens not in the world outside, but in your own head, and the prison you build with rumination has no guard but yourself. They hurt you once, but you hurt yourself every time you replay it. That is how they win twice, once with the insult, and once with your memory of it. Here's where Stoic wisdom cuts through the fog. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When you ruminate, you are choosing to be hurt again and again by the same event. It's like picking at a wound that could have healed, keeping it raw, infected, painful. Healing requires letting it close. Pain lingers only if you keep it alive. Think of it this way. Your mind is prime real estate. Every thought, every memory, every vision for your future lives there. Would you hand the keys of that house to someone who disrespected you? Would you let them set up camp in your living room, rent-free, disturbing your peace, consuming your space? That is exactly what you do when you let disrespect consume you. You become landlord to your own suffering. But you have a choice. When the insult lingers, when the memory replays, you can redirect. Discipline your mind the way a captain steers a ship. The sea may throw storms at you, but you still hold the wheel. And the wheel is your attention. Each time your thoughts return to the insult, you have the power to guide them elsewhere, toward your goals, your craft, your joy. Here's how you practice. Give yourself permission to feel, but only for a short, strict time. 10 minutes. Sit with the sting. Name the emotion. Anger, hurt, disappointment. Then stop. File the moment where it belongs, in your memory, as data about who they are, not evidence of who you are. They revealed something about themselves, not about your worth. Close the file, move on, and when the memory claws its way back, be ready with replacements. A project that excites you, a challenge that matters, a reminder of your purpose. Redirect instantly. You are training your mind like a muscle. Each redirection builds strength. Each refusal to dwell builds peace. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The insult is outside you. The echo of it inside your mind, that is yours to control. I learned this lesson the hard way, and when I finally mastered it, something remarkable happened. The same colleague tried again weeks later, Another dismissive comment, another smirk. This time, I walked away. The thought returned for a moment, but I cut it off, redirecting into something I cared about. By evening, I had forgotten. And you know what? Without fuel from my attention, the insult died almost instantly. He never gained the satisfaction of my inner chaos again. That is freedom. Not freedom from insults, they will always come, but freedom from carrying them like poison in your own veins. So here is the truth you must hold. The greatest victory is not silencing them in the moment, but silencing their echo in your mind. Their words may cut for a moment, but your peace endures if you deny them space in your mind. Your dignity is not just in how you face the world, it is in how you face yourself when you are alone. Do not let their shadow follow you home. Guard your mind like sacred ground. Fill it with what nourishes, not what gnaws. Because in the end, the worst thing someone can do is not insult you. It is to make you like them, trapped in bitterness, chained to resentment, consumed by anger. Do not give them that victory. Close the door. Protect your peace. And now, as we draw the lesson of this fifth mistake to a close, one truth becomes clear. Disrespect is not the test of their character, it is the test of yours. And when you master these 5 traps, you no longer just avoid their power, you rise above it. You walk with dignity untouched. And that is the quiet strength the Stoics called freedom. When you rise above these 5 traps, you do more than protect your dignity. You send a message that cannot be ignored. A message that says your spirit is not for sale, your calm is not up for negotiation, and your worth is not something anyone else can hand to you or take away. Disrespect is never truly about you. It is a mirror of their own unrest. But how you choose to respond will always reveal who you really are. In that moment, you either surrender to impulse or you ascend into strength. Remember this: respect is not demanded. It is earned in silence, in composure, in the ability to stay steady when others lose themselves. Each pause, each breath, each refusal to be dragged down is a victory that shapes not only how others see you, but how you see yourself. So I invite you to carry this lesson with you. If you found even one truth here that speaks to your own life, let it remind you that wisdom grows stronger every time you practice it. Subscribe if you want to keep walking this path of clarity, calm, and inner power. This is not just knowledge, it is training for the soul. Now I want to hear from you. Which mistake do you find the hardest to avoid when someone disrespects you? Share it in the comments with a simple phrase like hardest to avoid. Your words might be the spark that helps someone else reclaim their peace. Every moment of disrespect is also an invitation to rise. Take each one as practice for your mind and proof of your spirit. You are not defined by the storm around you, but by the calm you carry within. Let that truth lift you higher. And stay close, because next time we will explore not only how to defend respect, but how to build it so strongly that no one can shake it. Until then, walk tall, stay grounded, and protect your peace.